We continue our team coverage on those demonstrations in Des Moines. Two of the protesters at the Capitol today are now facing charges after getting arrested by Iowa State Patrol. 20-year-old Bellona Allou and Veronica Hernandez, 26 years old, both charged with interference with official acts. Now, the Des Moines Register reports they saw at least 4 people being handcuffed and removed from the Capitol building during those protests. Again, we only know about those 2 actually being charged with anything. Iowa's News Now reporter Faven Zodi is live in studio, though, after talking to a state representative who also saw those arrests today.
Mitch, State House Representative Brian Meyer tells me protesters are allowed on the first floor of the Capitol and says the hundreds of protesters inside the Capitol today were exercising their constitutional rights. But he thinks that their First Amendment rights were violated at least once during the demonstrations.
Whereas they could have, before the hearing, moved those protesters out and said you can only protest in this area. They chose not to do that.
Iowa code lays out fairly basic regulations about events inside the Capitol building. But State Representative Brian Meyer says he still thinks people in charge overstepped during Monday's demonstrations over a bill trying to take civil rights away from transgender Iowans.
And everybody knows what the rules are here, and the protesters knew what the rules were. The protesters were not breaking the rules. And so therefore, when they were removed from an area that they were designated to protest in, I believe it was a violation of the First Amendment.
Meyer says the protesters were making a scene and that that's well within their rights.
They weren't violent. They weren't shoving. They weren't pushing. They weren't doing anything wrong. They were loud, but that's constitutionally protected speech. And they got pushed out and moved at the order of the Republican leadership here at the Capitol.
Meyer believes it was a protest about the protest that led to a violation of their First Amendment rights.
But I can tell you, the protesters I saw were following the rules and they were peaceful. It was only after the Republicans decided that they didn't want to hear what the protesters had to say on the other side of the door. Then they told the State Patrol to move the protesters. They were completely following the rules. And I have no idea why the rules were changed in the middle of this.
A Senate subcommittee is set to look at this bill Tuesday, and there's a public hearing set for Thursday morning. Debate on the House floor could start that same day. Live in studio, Faven Zodi, Iowa's News Now.